Get ready, Padres fans. It's time for the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Tatis at third, 2 outs. Fernando takes off. He's going to steal home without a play.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, and our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today the Padres take on the Detroit Tigers in the final game of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the Tigers, right-hander Casey Mize, and for the Padres, left-hander Martin Perez. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park. First pitch coming up at 5:40 as the Padres go for a 3-game sweep of the Tigers. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, we hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt, plus I go one-on-one with Jake Cronenworth, and in just a few minutes, we check in with Padres radio voice Jesse Agler. But first, let's set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa Vista and Oceanside. Padres entered today 80-61. They entered today's action holding the National League's top wild card spot. The D-backs lost earlier today to the Giants. The Padres right now a game ahead of Arizona in that top National League wildcard spot. Padres also begin the day 4.5 games behind the LA Dodgers for first place in the National League West. Padres have won 3 in a row, and again they go for a 3-game sweep today. Meanwhile, the Tigers come in an even 70-70, 5.5 games out of the final American League wildcard spot. Before this series, the Tigers had won 15 of 20, and now they've lost 2 in a row. What a game it was here in downtown San Diego last night.
How did the Padres fare in their last game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind. Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
Yu Darvish made his return to the mound in the top of the first inning. He gave up a solo home run to Matt Vierling. That put the Tigers ahead at 1-0. Darvish allowed a run in the second, another in the third. Yuki Matsui returned to the mound in the fourth inning after finishing the third. There was a runner on base for Trey Sweeney.
Runner on first, nobody out, 3-0 Tigers. And this one hit a mile in the air down the right field line. Fernando back to watch, and it will go. Moonshot to right for Trey Sweeney. A 2-run homer against Matsui here in the fourth inning. And the Tigers have added on 5-0 Detroit.
The Padres trailed 5-0 going to the bottom half of the fourth inning, but they rallied. There were 2 on for Jackson Merrill.
Left-hand hitter, of course. First pitch, swung on, hit in the air to left field and deep. Green's racing back, still going back, at the wall, gonna go! 3-run homer, Jackson Merrill! Merrill has just become the first Padre rookie ever to drive in 80 runs in a season, and more importantly has put them right back in this game. It's 5-3.
Bottom of the fifth inning, Padres still trailing 5-3. There were runners on second and third for Manny Machado.
Pitch on the way. Manny swings, hits a ground ball through the left side base hit. Arise has scored. Fernando's on his way. They've got no shot. 2-run single Manny Machado, and the Padres have erased another 5-run deficit. 5-5 here in the fifth.
The game stayed tied at 5 in large part because the Padres bullpen was terrific. 6 straight scoreless innings to keep it 5-0, then 5-3, then tied at 5. The Padres had the bases loaded a couple of times in the late innings. They could not score. That brought us to the bottom half of the 10th inning, still tied at 5. Jackson Merrill was the Padres' automatic runner. He was still on second base with 2 men away. Luis Arise was intentionally walked. That set the stage for Fernando Tatis Jr.
The pitch from Foley, swung on, hit through the left side, and a base hit. Merrill rounding third on his way. Green's throws got no shot, and Fernando is back. Tatis wins it for the Padres. They mob him on the left side of the infield. A walk-off single in the bottom of the 10th inning, and the Padres beat the Tigers 6-5. They will take their brooms out here tomorrow night.
Padres winning a third in a row, securing an 11th series win in their last 14 played. Final score yesterday in 10, the Padres 6 and the Tigers 5. As we now get ready for first pitch coming up at 5:40 in this series finale, let's go inside the Jerry Coleman Broadcast Center.
Let's go inside the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup from Jesse Agler in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Jesse, before we focus on today's matchup, I do want to rewind to yesterday's game. It was a really sort of fun, at times weird, at times frustrating ball game, but quite an ending. Fernando Tatis Jr., the walk-off hit in the bottom half of the 10th inning. Your thoughts on everything that transpired last night in that Padres win?
It was very, very special, Sam. There's no doubt about it. I think, we were all kind of blown away to hear right after the fact that the guy never had a walk-off RBI before. I mean, we just sort of assumed it had happened like 30 times, I guess, because he's that kind of dynamo out there. Look, man, it's another chapter in what has been a storybook season. This team has put together big moments, dramatic moments, exciting moments, moments that have some, like emotional depth to them all season long. And so Fernando to be able to come and do that, second game back, really just another very, very special chapter.
Absolutely. Another walk-off win, another very memorable moment here at Petco Park. Focusing on today's game, let's talk about the starting pitcher today for the Padres. That's veteran left-hander Martin Perez. And for whatever it's worth, Jesse, the Padres are 6-0 in Perez's 6 starts so far in the brown and gold. And sure, there have been a few innings where there have been some hiccups, but Jesse, it feels like for the most part, Perez has done a nice job not just eating up some innings, but also being pretty effective.
Yeah, and, last start in particular, getting some run support, I think, helped. It sort of altered the way I think he was able to go out and work. So it is a team thing, everything's connected, right? And the innings, everyone he eats up are huge. They really are. And obviously the better he pitches, the more innings that will be. But even the way that the Padres were sort of able to, manipulate the rotation this week, to get Michael King a couple of extra days, to be able to, frankly, throw the lefty at the Tigers, who are just littered, kitty littered, if you will, with left-handed hitters. He's able to go out there and face this team and really kind of force the Tigers to change their approach. So, and their lineup. I mean, he's a really important piece. I think we said from day one of that acquisition, we don't know how it's going to go, but we love the idea. And it has certainly gone very well, as you said, 6-0 in the 6 starts.
On the other side of this pitching matchup, right-hander Casey Mize on the mound for Detroit. I'll talk a little bit more about him later, and I'm sure that you and Tony will focus plenty on him as well. I do want to talk a little bit about the Padres bullpen, Jesse, because on a day like today, Martin Perez, I'm sure the Padres hoping can give them a little bit of length, and that's in part because the Padres had to use a grand total of 7 relievers in yesterday's game, most of which were absolutely terrific. And I thought, and Mike Shildt talked about it after the game yesterday, you look at being able to use a guy like a Jeremiah Estrada in the 10th inning after you've already used all those relievers earlier in the game. Jesse, it just feels like it was another example of how deep this bullpen is, how powerful this bullpen is, and there have been a lot of nights so far since the trade deadline where that has certainly been on full display. Your thoughts on what this pen continues to show?
Yeah, it's a championship bullpen, it is, and then you need, or you would just certainly like to have a bullpen like this if you're going to try and win it all, and that's what the Padres are doing. To be able to run out Adam and Scott and Suarez, on any kind of regular basis in a postseason series is just devastating to an opposing team. And then, like you said, ideal world, right? Your starter gives you 6, and then you go 7, 8, 9 with those 3 guys. But because of those other guys, the Jeremiah Estradas and the Adrian Morejones, now the Wandy Peraltas, you're more able to, go to somebody else if you need to a little bit earlier on. And just remember with this series, too, a little bit weird, right, with that Tuesday off day. Right. Scott, Adam, and Suarez have worked 3 straight games, but it's not 3 straight days. So, maybe you can squeeze a little bit more juice out of that orange if you need to here tonight. We'll see.
All right, Jesse, very good stuff as always. We'll talk to you and Tony coming up at 5:30 as we get ready for this series finale. Padres going for a 3-game sweep of the Tigers. Thanks so much as always, my friend.
You got it, Sam.
All right, that is Jesse Agler joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network. We've got a lot to do between now and first pitch. Coming up when we return, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt, plus a little bit later, I go one-on-one with Jake Cronenworth. A really good conversation with Jake about the team's success this year in extra innings. The Padres are 8-1 in extra innings this season after yesterday's win. We also touch on just the overall offensive approach, the return of Fernando Tatis Jr., and much, much more with Jake Cronenworth. Plus, coming up a little bit later, our keys to the game. We'll also have a full breakdown of this pitching matchup between Martin Perez and Casey Mize. As always, if you want to get involved on our pregame coverage, you can do that in a number of different ways. You can tweet at me at Sammy Lev, SammyLev. Instagram DM's open as well. Sammy Lev there too. You can DM me there with your key to the game. And if you want to comment on our various video streams, whether that's on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you want to do, you can also give your key to the game on there as well. First pitch coming up at 5:40 here at Petco Park for the series finale. Padres going for a sweep of the Tigers. We're back with more pregame coverage after this on the Padres Radio Network. Western Metal Building at Petco Park as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 5:40 here tonight, the third and final game of this three-game series between the Padres and the Tigers. Right-hander Casey Mize on the mound for Detroit, left-hander Martin Perez on the mound for the Padres. By the way, the battery here tonight, Perez on the mound, and Elias Diaz making his first start for the Padres, batting eighth and doing the catching. We'll have Jesse and Tony. We'll have the starting lineups coming your way at 5:30, but Elias Diaz will make his first start as a Padre here tonight after getting into the game late yesterday. He did come in defensively, had an at-bat in the game as well. So Diaz behind the plate today for the Padres. Everything else is pretty much as it's been. We'll have the full starting lineups coming up at 5:30. As we get ready for this series finale, let's hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
And Mike, I know we talked a lot about last night, but still, to see Fernando, what he's been able to do since coming back, the explosiveness, his ability to pretty much do everything that he wants to do without any reservations, it seems like. How important is it to see that?
That's very important, good for him, good for us, clearly impacted the game last night. It's what he does in all different areas pretty much nightly, so him being able to feel like he's able to do that is very important, and of course we're still going to have to take care of him, monitor him, but he was definitely looked like the best version of himself yesterday, or pretty darn close to it.
You talked about it, Darvish himself talked about the quality of his stuff last night, how good he felt physically, and out here we're seeing him playing some catch today. It looks like he's recovering nicely after that outing yesterday.
Yeah, I saw him earlier. He's running around the ballpark, and talked to him briefly. He said he felt pretty good, and the catch will help us determine how he really feels. Haven't got any feedback on that, but if you say it looks good, I trust you, Scan.
All of the games that you've come back from 5 runs down, the bullpen has shut down the opposition the entire way. Maybe underappreciated what this bullpen has done in some of those comeback wins. We talk about the offense, but the bullpen's done a great job as well.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I say there's a lot of heroes, and rightfully so, the guys in the game, whether it's Toddy last night or Jackson or Croney or Manny or Bogey or Higgy. You name it, Arise, Solano, Peralta, whoever the hero that drives in the big run, gets the rightful, accolades for it. But it's the unsung heroes that can be your bullpen that people can take for granted. And I've said this, and I'll always say it, beginning of the year, middle of the year, now, teams that have good bullpens that can hold leads are important, and then, have the ability to hold it right there if you happen to be down, to give yourself a chance, especially the competitive spirit of this team, allows you the best chance to win games.
How's Kim doing?
Progressing. Yesterday you probably saw he threw across a little bit, still finding his way with how much intensity to put behind the baseball. But we'll see how he covers today. But yesterday was a good step forward, him being able to throw from his position.
You've been asked about Jackson Merrill in about 150 different ways, but if you had to boil it down to not playing the position before, not playing above, 40-some games in AA, not hitting a slump, handling pitching immediately, handling the defensive assignments at a premium position, all those boxes you could check that he's handled. Is there one thing that you've been most impressed about that he's done that you thought, well, that's among all those things, this is the one that kind of catches my eye?
I don't think there's one. I think if I had to say one, to answer your question specifically, the transition to a new position would probably be the one. But it's all impressive. Is it surprising? Knowing Jackson to the degree, it would not really. This is a really special young man, but what he's able to accomplish is clearly impressive. But the transition to a new position to the big leagues is pretty impressive. Of many things that you already listed that are impressive.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt. Before today's game, we'll hear more from Mike on our post-game show coming up later on this evening. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 5:40. Padres going for a sweep of the Tigers. A sweep of the Tigers. Let's tell you now who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
We begin with a look at the hot category. Luis Ariz batting .429 in the last 8 games. He had 2 RBI hits in Monday's win, then had 2 more hits last night. Manny Machado batting .333 in his last 12 games. 3 home runs, 3 doubles, and 13 RBIs in that span. Jackson Merrill batting .338 with 5 home runs, 4 doubles, 2 triples, 18 RBIs in the past 19 games. All those guys in the hot category today for the Padres. In the hot category for Detroit, Kerry Carpenter batting .325 with 3 home runs, 11 RBIs in his last 12 games. Matt Vierling back in the lineup today for the Tigers, batting .340 in his last 13 games. 2 home runs, 4 doubles in that span. In the not category, let's begin with a couple of guys that are in the lineup today for Detroit. Ryan Kreidler just 1 for 11 since getting recalled from AAA. Jake Rogers, the catcher today for the Tigers, just 2 for 13 in his last 6 games. And for the Padres, we focus on Jurickson Profar. He's batting just .165 in his last 22 games. And that's a look at who's hot, who's not, as we get ready for the final game of this 3-game set. When we come back on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, we'll have our keys to the game. We'll have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, including one result that went the Padres' way earlier today. So the Padres already getting a little bit of help earlier today in San Francisco. We'll talk about that. Plus, coming up a little bit later, I go one-on-one with Jake Cronenworth. And then we have our What to Watch For segment and a full breakdown of this starting pitching matchup between Martin Perez and Casey Mize. First pitch coming up at 5:40 here at Petco Park on the Padres Radio Network. 40. Final game of this 3-game series between the Padres and the Tigers. Fans filing in here in downtown San Diego on what is shaping up to be a beautiful evening on this Thursday. Padres, of course, continuing this homestand with a 3-game series against the Giants. Starting tomorrow, Giants already played today against the Diamondbacks. We'll talk about that game and much more across the majors coming up in just a couple of minutes. Let's give you the latest now on Ha-Seong Kim as we have our injury report.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Well, the Padres continue to get healthier and healthier. Yesterday we saw the return of Yu Darvish. On Monday we saw the return of Fernando Tatis Jr. A few weeks ago we saw the return of Joe Musgrove. Really, the final piece right now that is on the IL is Ha-Seong Kim. Still on the IL, dealing with that right shoulder inflammation after jamming his right shoulder back on August 18th. In Colorado. The latest on Kim is this. He is hitting at full capacity, taking batting practice with the team. He has been playing catch, and as of yesterday, he did begin making throws across the diamond. Has yet to really do so, from what we understand, at maybe 100%. Sounds like he's progressing, taking good steps forward, but still, no timetable on when Kim will come off the IL. So that is the latest on Ha-Seong Kim. Again, Kim has been playing catch, and yesterday started making those throws across the diamond. So we'll see what the news is in the days to come on Ha-Seong Kim, but certainly the Padres would love to have him back in that lineup and playing shortstop. That's the latest on Kim, and look at the injury report on this Thursday. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the Bigs and tell you about the scores you need to know in our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Meat, where great taste meets integrity.
We take a look at scores from around the major leagues. We have a number of finals already today, the most important of which for the Padres is in San Francisco. Giants beating the Diamondbacks 3-2 in San Francisco earlier today. Patrick Bailey had 3 RBIs in that game for the Giants, including a walk-off double to win it. So that result is very important because the Padres at the moment are now a full game up on the Diamondbacks for that top wild card spot. If the Padres win this game today against the Tigers, they would now be a game and a half ahead of Arizona for that top wild card spot. If the Padres weren't to win, then it would stay just a half game ahead. So there is an opportunity for the Padres now today to pick up a full game on Arizona. Mariners beat the A's 6-4 in Oakland. Julio Rodriguez a home run in that game for Seattle. Twins beat the Rays 4-3 in Tampa Bay. Edward Julien hit a 3-run home run in that game for Minnesota. Reds beat the Astros 1-0 in Cincinnati. Ty France, the former Padre, former Mariner, he hit a go-ahead solo home run in that game for Cincinnati. Games going on right now. Phillies 2, Marlins 0 in the 6th inning in Miami. Pirates 6 and the Nationals 3 in the 5th inning in Pittsburgh. The Rockies and the Braves tied at 1 in Atlanta in the 4th inning. Angels and the Rangers are scoreless in the 1st inning in Arlington. And that's it. The only game yet to begin is this one here in San Diego. So every other game is either final or going on right now, and we'll have even more on all those games coming up a little bit later on tonight on our post-game show as we get ready for the final game of this 3-game series between the Padres and the not the Arizona Diamondbacks, Padres and the Detroit Tigers. Well, earlier today inside the Padres clubhouse, I had a really good conversation with Jake Cronenworth on a number of different topics. We talked about the team's really good performance in extra innings so far this season. Padres 8-1 now in extra inning games, hitting over 400 in extra innings this season. Keep in mind, the Padres went 2-12 in extra inning games last year and hit under 200 in extra innings. So it has been a totally different team in that sense. Jake and I talked about this team's offensive approach. We talked about Fernando Tatis Jr. and much more. Here was my conversation with Jake Cronenworth earlier today. Sam Levitt here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for today's game. And right now I'm joined by Padres first baseman Jake Cronenworth. And Jake, I wanted to talk to you first about the offensive approach for this team overall in 2024. A team, an offense that hits for a really high average. You guys don't strike out a lot. How would you characterize what the approach has been offensively really all year?
Yeah, I think it's, the biggest thing is the quality of the at-bats the guys are putting together. No matter the situation, where we're at in the game, up in the game, down in the game, I think, the reason our at-bats have been good is because everybody's going up there and, what is this at-bat? What's my goal of this at-bat? And, everybody's going up there and just having really, really good ones. And, those quality at-bats, and you stack those over the course of the game, I think we saw it last week in Tampa. We kind of just grinded Pepio down, and his stuff was incredible. We didn't have a ton of hits, but we got his pitch count up.
Thinking about yesterday's game, you're down 5-0 early. You obviously get some big swings from Merrill, from Manny to get right back in the game. Just take me inside the dugout as much as you can. What's being said when you're trailing by that much that early in a game?
Yeah, I think it's, it's not the first time we've had it this season. I think it's something that's become, no matter where we're at in the game, we always feel like we're never out of it. And, there's those big hits. Obviously, Jackson hits the 3-run homer to make it 5-3. Now we're within 2, and Manny gets the 2-run single. But it's all those at-bats that are in between that as well. Guys getting on base, whether it's a single or a walk, or, a guy has a 10-pitch at-bat, or somebody gets moved over, or whatever it is. And, that just gives that next guy an opportunity to come up and, have an incredible at-bat.
As far as extra innings, yesterday another good example of you guys being able to get the job done in extras. It's 8-1 in extra innings now, above a 400 batting average in extra innings now. To you, what's been the key in those particular innings when you have a tight game, a tie game?
Yeah, I think it's, I think the biggest thing we've seen, and it speaks to the quality of the at-bat. It's not trying to live up to the situation. Just go up there and, be yourself and, kind of, I don't want to say downplay the situation, but your job is to, have that great at-bat. And, Toddy may not, for example, Toddy may not have gotten a hit, but he could have a quality at-bat, walk, now it's bases loaded, and boom, the next guy gets the hit. And, we've seen that before, and it's something that, everybody's just trying to have their best at-bat in every single moment, and it shows.
We're joined by Padres first baseman Jake Cronenworth as we get ready for today's game. I want to talk about Fernando Tatis Jr. because from the broadcaster perspective, the fan perspective, obviously the numbers are the numbers, the flair he plays with. It's so obvious. It's so fun to watch. But as a teammate with Fernando back, what does he provide to this group?
Yeah, I mean, he provides that spark, and like you were saying, he's just that, huge ball of energy. And, it was kind of a great way last night to get reintroduced back to us, and with the walk-off, and it was kind of picture perfect for him to come back in the lineup and have that happen. And no, he's just who he is. I mean, he's an incredible competitor. He's a huge piece of our team and a huge piece of this clubhouse, and I think everybody's excited to have him back.
This team has a number of guys right now that were out for a while with injury that are coming back. I mean, you had to deal with that in a sense last year, missing the end of the season after the hit by pitch. As a player, especially this time of year as it's getting late, what is that experience like as you have to watch it from the sidelines as the team goes through maybe the most important part of the year?
Yeah, it's really hard. Not the easiest thing, but the one thing that I learned last year, and obviously a couple of the guys have gone through it a couple of times now, but you see the game from a different perspective, and you see where you can help provide things that we may need, and it's just a different kind of set of eyes that you're looking at the game with. You're really, when you're playing the game, you're obviously focused on what you're doing and what you can do to help the team. Obviously the team as well, but when you're sitting there on the bench and you can't do anything. You're viewing the game, you're watching the entirety of the game and not thinking about yourself. You're thinking about what can be done here to win this game. What can this guy do to move that guy over? Where can we make defensive adjustments to help our pitcher more on the defensive side of the ball? It's a lot different, but I think it's, you never want it to happen, but it's a valuable piece if you're in that spot.
You guys are in a good position as far as the playoff picture, but still a ways to go. The finish line is near. As cliche as this question may sound, what will be the biggest key to getting across that finish line as we get towards the middle of September?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of been, reciprocated over the course of the year. It's, let's not focus at the end about the end. Let's focus about today and what we can do to win. We only have 20 games left. We take those last 20 games and, come in every day. What can we do to win tonight's game? I think we'll put ourselves in a good position.
Jake, as always, really appreciate the time. Best of luck tonight and with everything coming up. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That was Jake Cronenworth inside the Padres clubhouse earlier today. Really nice conversation with Jake. And Jake, of course, back in the lineup today, playing first base and batting fifth. The Padres erasing that 5-run deficit last night. It was their 35th come-from-behind win this season, tying for the fourth most of any team in baseball with the Dodgers, Twins, and Rays. So the Padres continue to be comeback kids. They're now 30-12 since the All-Star break, the best record in baseball in that span. So the Padres having a wonderful second half right now in that top wild card spot. But like Jake and I talked about, gotta keep it going. We'll see if the Padres can win a fourth in a row here today and sweep this series against the Tigers. How can they accomplish that here today? Well, let's give you our keys to today's game.
How will the Padres unlock a victory in today's game? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Honor Buick GMC Hummer in National City.
Key number one, keep the pressure on at the top of the batting order. Luis Ariz was 2 for 5 with a walk out of the leadoff spot last night. Fernando Tatis Jr. had 2 hits out of the number 2 spot in the lineup yesterday, including the walk-off swing. Tatis put 4 balls in play last night at 100 miles per hour or harder. Last night was the first time in 11 games that the first 2 batters in the Padres lineup both had multiple hits. So what yesterday's game showed the power of having Ariz and Tatis at the very top of the Padres lineup. When those guys are swinging the bat well, getting on base, driving in runs, it makes this lineup that much more dangerous. That's key number one. Key number two, we've talked about this the last few days. Runners in scoring position. The Padres were 4 for 8 with runners in scoring position on Monday. They were 4 for 14 with runners in scoring position last night. The 4 hits with runners in scoring position is sort of a magic number for the Padres this season. They are 33-3 this year when they have at least 4 hits with runners in scoring position. So kind of a little magic number there, if you will. When they get the 4 hits with RASP, typically means very, very good things. And again, they got there yesterday. They got there on Monday. Can they get there once again here tonight? Key number 3, Martin Perez getting off to a good start and building on it. And I mean that for a couple of different reasons. Martin Perez has been very good this season early in his starts. Perez has a 2.45 ERA in the first inning, a 2.86 ERA in the second inning between his time with the Padres and the Pirates. His first time through the lineup, opponents are batting .239 against him. That number jumps up to .292 the second trip through the order, and to .375 the third time through. So here today, here's what you hope with Martin Perez. Number one, he settles in early, gets through that first trip through the batting order successfully like he typically does, but then finds a way to settle in through the middle innings and go deep in this game. Not just because it gives you a better chance to win, but also remember, the Padres had to use 7 relievers in last night's game. They did have the off day on Tuesday, so nobody's pitched in back-to-back days. You would imagine that pretty much everybody's available for this game, but still, when you have to use 7 relievers in a game, it would be nice if Martin Perez can be 1, effective, and 2, go deep in this ball game here tonight. And that's a look at our keys to the game as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 5:40. When we come back on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, we'll tell you what to watch for in today's game, plus a full breakdown of this pitching matchup between veteran left-hander Martin Perez and young right-hander Casey Mize on the mound for the Tigers. Padres going for a 3-game sweep of the Tigers here today. We have more pregame coverage after this from Petco Park on the Padres Radio Network. take on the Tigers in the final game of this 3-game series. Padres going for a 4th consecutive win and a 3-game sweep of Detroit. We go out to Jesse Agler and Tony Gwynn Jr. in just about 7 minutes. They'll have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and then all the play-by-play. If you heard my one-on-one conversation with Jake Cronenworth in that last segment, you heard us talk about how the Padres do not strike out much at all. And I have this little nugget here that really stands out and says a lot about the Padres in 2024. And again, we'll have what to watch for in a second. Also, a full breakdown of our pitching matchup here today. Padres hitters have struck out just 923 times this year, the fewest strikeouts of any team in the major leagues. Meanwhile, Padres pitchers have the second most strikeouts in the majors at 1,272, the total for Padres pitchers. So of all the numbers you can point out for the Padres this season, again, another good one. They strike out as little as anybody, and they strike out just as much as about anybody in the major leagues. That typically is a good recipe for success. Let's tell you what to watch for in today's game.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game. Can the Padres continue to limit the Tigers' big bats? Before the series opener against Detroit, we talked about 4 Tigers hitters that came in swinging the bat really well. So let's go through them. Riley Green only has 1 hit in the first 2 games of this series. Spencer Torkelson, no hits so far in this series. Kerry Carpenter not in the starting lineup here tonight. Could come off the bench, a single on Monday, a double on Tuesday, but no RBIs, no runs scored. And Parker Meadows, he's 0 for 9 in the first 2 games of this series. The Padres have done a really nice job against those guys that we talked about before the series started. Can they do that again here today against guys like Meadows and Torkelson and Green? That's what to watch for in today's game. Let's break down our starting pitching matchup between Martin Perez and Casey Mize.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview. Presented by Chimney Sweeps, Inc., San Diego's trusted chimney and fireplace service company for 40 years. Call Chimney Sweeps, Inc. at 1-800-CHIMNEY or book an inspection online at chimneysweepsinc.com.
On the mound for the Padres, 33-year-old left-hander Martin Perez. 2024 between his time with the Pirates and the Padres, a 4-5 record, 4.71 ERA, 22 starts. So far with San Diego, 2-0 record, a 3.41 ERA in 6 starts, 31 2/3 innings. Padres are 6-0 in his starts so far this season. Last start against Tampa Bay, 5 innings, 4 earned runs given up on 7 hits. All the runs came in 1 inning. Perez faced the Tigers back in April, gave up just 1 run in a season-high 8 innings of work. Again, that was with the Pirates, but the only other time he faced the Tigers this season, he was very, very good. Meanwhile, on the mound for the Tigers, right-hander Casey Mize. The 27-year-old is 2-6, a 4.25 ERA in 17 starts, 84 2/3 innings. He struck out 62, walked 22, makes his second start since returning from the IL after missing 2 months with a strained left hamstring. His first start off the IL, he gave up 3 earned runs in 6 innings through 85 pitches. Something to watch for today. In his first 16 starts of the season, Mize had only a 19% whiff rate on his slider. In his 4 rehab starts, it went up to 33%. And then in his return to the major leagues, it went all the way up to 43%. So he's made some adjustments to the grip of that slider. Keep an eye on that pitch here today, how the Padres do against it. And that's a look at our starting pitching matchup. Casey Mize for the Tigers and Martin Perez on the mound for the Padres. You've been listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Padres winning on Monday, winning last night. Fernando Tatis Jr., the walk-off swing. What's in store in this series finale as the Padres go for a 3-game sweep? We're going to find out. When we come back, Jesse Agler, Tony Gwynn Jr. have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our postgame show. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network.
Looking to upgrade your home?